Do you even know what a podcast is?
No.
Okay, the question is, are we going to have kids? What do you keep taking big breaths for? Relax.
I've never done my own podcast. So
Well, I say last. Just cut that shit out. That's fucking boring.
I was phased out. What were you talking about then? What did you say?
That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. We've got to try and keep people's attention here.
If you love listening to people talk shit about nothing, this is the podcast for you. Okay, you
Bit
talk.
of this, bit of that. What's funny?
Just sounds very podcasty.
It does sound podcast, isn't it?
It's weird talking to you like this. Okay, ready?
Yeah, hang on, I don't know. Are you recording?
No.
Bro. Yeah. Welcome to our podcast.
What? Stop
What?
moving on the chair.
Oh,
You can't be going, welcome to our podcast. Do you want me to do it? Because you can't just say, welcome to our podcast. Okay.
yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kirsty and Jesse's very first podcast.
We still don't have a name for it yet, so
No.
that's in the works. So this probably first episode will just be like unnamed. I don't know. We might think of something snazzy.
Something snazzy.
Something snazzy.
Yeah. Like your mustache? Is that what you're pointing at right now?
Yes. That's what I was pointing at.
Okay. For those at home that are watching on YouTube and not actually listening on Spotify or something like that, they can see your mustache, but those at
Yes.
home listening probably can't.
It's looking
So
mighty fine. Kirsty asked me to grow a mustache for her.
I did not ask you to grow a mustache for me.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
I didn't. The mustache is gross.
No.
Nobody wants to see it.
What's wrong with it? Like, you got to give the people what they want. People have been asking
Nobody wants it, mate.
to grow a mo.
No, I don't think anyone's ever asked you to grow a mo.
Pretty sure they have. I think it looks pretty good.
Put it this way, since you've had the mo, have we had sex?
I can't remember. Probably that
No.
means no.
So that's probably telling you
We've been
something.
busy though. I
No.
didn't think it was a mustache.
It's purely been because of the mustache.
I'm pretty sure it's because we've been busy.
I'm pretty sure it's because of the
I've
mustache.
been seeing you eyeballing me.
No, I haven't been eyeballing you at all.
I feel like I'm not used to this podcast. I'm not used to it. It seems really weird speaking to you like this with the headphones.
I told you that. I said, do we even need the headphones?
I'm not sure. People wear them when they do their own podcast, but it seems really weird.
Just
Maybe
don't
that's
be
better.
weird, mate.
I think that's better. I think it sounds alright.
Hello.
That's
Hello.
better, yeah.
You reckon?
I think so. Well, you can wear yours.
I'll wear mine.
Yeah.
You're a weirdo, mate.
Sweaty. It's hot in here. It's,
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe we should explain where we are, because people will be watching this on YouTube and they're going to see this room. I know most people will be listening, so they won't see the room, but for
yeah, we'll
those that
explain
can
it to them.
see
So
it,
we're in the process of renovating and we've stripped a couple of walls here.
well, yes, we're renovating our whole house. So literally, this is the only room where we can record the podcast where there's not a whole lot of noise, even though we've got chooks just outside the window.
And we live on a pretty busy main road.
We do. So this is the only spot that's quiet, and of course
There's
the
a
walls are
plane
already
going.
stripped. There is
I
a
can
plane.
hear a plane going over.
Yeah.
But should be right. Well, who cares? People
Who
know.
cares?
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Just because you hear shit in the background doesn't make it any...
Can you please stop moving on
Is
your
that
chair?
loud? I haven't got headphones in now. Yeah, so I guess we better tell people who we are.
Well, yes, we're Kirsty and Jesse. Most people will know us from The Block. And I feel like if you watched us on The Block, we pretty much got the Australia Sweetheart edit. I'll admit it. I feel like we got the Australia Sweetheart edit, but I feel like there's so much more to us that people didn't see on the show.
I was just so brain dead on the show, so
Yeah,
I didn't really say much or do anything. I was just so brain dead.
you were. And it's funny, I would read people's comments online and they would say things like, I wish Kirsty would let him speak. But what people don't realise is if I didn't speak, they'd be getting nothing out of us because you were just so brain dead.
Correct.
We're both brain dead, but I can at least fake it. You can't fake it.
I couldn't fake it. I was just so brain dead.
So
Like just
tired
living
every
on
day.
no sleep and just working our absolute guts out. I just couldn't even talk. I had nothing.
What people don't understand is you're getting about 3 hours sleep a night. So we used to watch The Block at home and we would think that looks so easy. We've worked hard before. What are these people whinging about? But it's not until you're in it and amongst it that you just realise how ridiculously hard it is. And it's mainly the no sleep that you're trying to survive on. The work is not so much the hardest part of it, it's the no sleep. And then you got to film a TV show on top of that.
100%.
Where you
Like
gotta
your body
be
just
on.
doesn't function without sleep.
It doesn't
But yeah,
function.
so that's where you might know us from, The Block. But
Yeah.
if you have no idea who we are and who you're listening to, Yeah, we're Kirsty and Jesse, high school sweethearts.
We are. Well, we actually met in primary school.
You start the story. Kirsty tells it better than me. I talk quite slow. Kirsty's a bit faster than me, so you start. You go.
No, well, you did get it right, but we actually met in primary school. So we both come from a small town in the Hunter Valley called Curry. It's funny though. We say we're from Curry, but
I'm from Mulbring.
But I never ever went to Curry Primary School. We both went to Western Primary School, which is just a suburb of Curry. So anyway, that's off track. So
yeah, if you don't even know where those towns are, it's just the Hunter Valley near Newcastle.
Yes, so we both went to Western Primary School together, and then you and your mum and your sisters ended up moving to Newcastle, Stockton, because your sisters were going to TAFE down there, yeah?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't know. We moved down there, I don't know, because Mum wanted to see if the girls had better opportunities closer to Newcastle work, I think.
Okay, so anyway, back then that seemed like that was so far away, but really it's 40 minutes away from Curry. So when you moved away, I didn't see you again for the rest of primary school, and then you ended up moving back to Curry, and what do you keep taking big breaths for?
Huh?
What do you keep taking big breaths for? Relax.
I've never done my own podcast. So. Weird.
Anyway.
We don't really ever talk to each other. Now I'm having to sit across the table from you.
I know, it's so weird.
And talk.
I know, we don't really talk. We're together 24/7. We work together. We live together.
We pretty much just yell stuff from different rooms and someone will mumble a response and we won't hear each other until one of us gets annoyed and then comes into the room. And usually I'll come into the room and you're like, oh, nothing.
Okay, so speaking of podcasts and us really not even knowing what a podcast was until recently, you got to have sponsors on podcasts. So we've got some sponsors on board, and we've really splashed out with the ads and the voiceovers for this one.
This guy,
being our first podcast, we wanted to really go all out. Yeah.
This guy, wait till he hears his silky smooth voice. It's nearly as good as mine.
And I'll say, can you just sing "Kennards makes your job easier"?
As if he won't do this, so he won't. He's pretty supportive because his dad's been in heaps of eclipse, but I don't know about this one.
The phone's about to go dead.
Of course it is. Kirsty never charges a phone. It's always on 1%, I'm sure.
I'm busy, mate.
Not busy. I'm always going around plugging a phone in for her. She doesn't, I don't even think you know that. I do that for you.
Mate, you got to make yourself useful.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, you there?
So we're filming this podcast, and I need someone to do like a voice for the ad that we've got to put on it.
Yeah.
Can you do it?
Yeah. I can't do it like till
No, you can just do it over the phone. Just.
All right.
You're live now, Bobby. How you going, mate?
All right.
Yeah.
What's the voice got to be?
Well, it's for the podcast.
You're actually on the podcast at the moment, mate. We've got you live.
So what I've got to do?
You just got to say, this podcast is brought to you by Kennards.
Yeah, right.
Right. Do it now.
You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
This pod ad.
What'd you say?
Hang on. Do it again.
Okay. You
Do it
ready?
again. Ready?
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Kennards.
That was good.
That's really good, Bobby. I'm actually really impressed, mate. Well done. You know they've got a slogan. It's called Kennards makes your job easy.
Can you sing that?
What is it?
Can I if you can?
Kennards. Kennards makes your job easy.
Ready?
Yeah.
Kennards make the jobs easy.
That's pretty good. Kennards.
That was good.
I bet it was.
Do you even know what a podcast is?
No.
Wait, can you, because I'm struggling with it a bit myself, mate. Can you explain to the people at home what a podcast is?
Am I going to explain to them what a podcast is?
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue.
I thought you'd be up on the podcast.
Nah, I don't know what podcast is.
What podcast is? Oh, you'll have to wait and listen and you'll find out.
There you go. You're famous now, Bobby. Thanks for that, mate.
How do I listen to that?
I don't know, on like Spotify or...
That's a good question. We've still got to figure that out.
Yeah. So anyway, back to how we met. Okay, so yes, you moved away from Curry and then you moved back to Curry, and year 8, I was in year 8 because I'm a little bit older than you, 9 months older, and you started at Kennards Hire. So we're in the same roll call together. So you were in year 7, I was in year 8.
So we're just,
high school
just
together.
friends.
Yeah, I used to sit next to Jesse every day in roll call.
Last names were the same A. Did you
yes,
say that? I don't know.
Anderson and Akers.
Yes.
So I would sit next to Jesse every day in roll call, and I had the absolute hots for Jesse's best mate, Lewis. Like when I say had the hots for him, I was obsessed. Like I thought I was going to marry him.
Can we say Lewis, or do we say?
I'm sure he'd be listening. How you going, Louis?
Or we just say like some other name.
Sorry, Jono. So I had the hots for Jono.
Jono. I bleeped Lewis out.
Unfortunately, Jono only liked ugly girls. He didn't like me.
Now it's getting confusing because I don't know what you're talking about. Jono, you've already said
you
Lewis.
actually did have a mate named Jono.
Yeah.
Just say Lewis. Everyone knows. Who cares?
Is what it is.
I'm sure he's crying himself to sleep at night.
Oh.
So, no. Okay, so I had the hots with Lewis. He didn't like me, unfortunately. But you did manage to hook us up. We hooked up at a party. When I say hooked up, back when we were, 16-year-olds, hooked up just meant kissing. It wasn't like we got down and dirty. No, we didn't get it on at all. We just, had a little smooch at a party. And then I realised, Lewis wasn't the one for me. And we became good friends because we'd just talk every day in roll call and we'd hang out at parties. And then eventually you got up the courage to ask me out.
Yep, it was our grand... No, it wasn't. It was
State of Origin
night. Yeah. Yes, and I don't know, just we'd been chatting for a while. I think, were we texting and then I rang or something like that? Yeah. On the old flip phone.
Yeah.
And I just said, will you go out with me? And Kirsty's very quick-witted and she's just like, where are you taking me?
Well, because I knew you didn't have your license.
No, I didn't have my license.
You're only 16.
I'm like, well, I don't know. So right off the bat, you've always had one up on me, I reckon, with wit.
But we ended up going to the movies. I picked you up because I had my P's. Yes, I was the best. Yes, I was a little bit older. I'd just gotten my P's, I think, when we started going out. And the rest is history. So, we are high school sweethearts. And then, once you finished high school before me, you finished in year 10 and you got your apprenticeship as a fitter machinist. And I was still at high school. I went to year 12. And straight from out of school, for those that don't know, I'm a singer. Anyone that watched The Block will know that, and anyone that's followed my career will know that. So I've always been a singer my whole life. Even in primary school, I was the kid that was always up on stage singing at concerts, and all through the high school, that's what everyone knew me as, all through school. So I'd always enter different competitions, and a competition that I won in our early months of our relationship was a competition called the Telstra Road to Tamworth, which won me a trip to Nashville. And so... we'd only been going out for less than a year, and you actually came over to Nashville with me. You were only 16. No, you were 17. You were 17.
Yeah. I had no idea.
We were both 17.
Like, going to another country by yourself at 17, and I wasn't the
smartest kid. What was your mum thinking?
I didn't know how airports worked. I
was so stressed. We didn't have, internet on our phones back then.
No. I don't even think...
I used to have to go to the motel lobby and log on to MSN and see... if you were on.
Yeah, that's right. MSN.
Send
that's
emails.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't international call either because it cost a fortune back then.
Yeah. I remember getting to the airport and then I just went through the security thing and sat down. I thought, they'll come and get me or something. And I was the last one on the plane.
What was your mum thinking, letting a 17-year-old on the plane to go over to America to meet up with his 17-year-old girlfriend in another country?
Clearing customs at LA and then flying. And I had to catch multiple planes.
That is so weird. Anyway. Made it. We were meant to be. And anyway, we ended up celebrating our first year anniversary over in Nashville. Do you remember?
Yes.
No, you don't. So we went to was it the Longhorn Steakhouse?
I remember going there. Was that the anniversary? Yes.
Yes, that was our first year anniversary.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So anyway, Jesse, he was a big supportive of my career from the very beginning. So he came over there and watched me perform in Nashville. And not long after that, we actually moved in together. As soon as I turned 18, we moved in together. So I moved in, we moved into your mum's house together, yeah? So we lived with your mum.
Oh, yeah,
for
that's
a
right.
little
I
while.
lived with Mum for a while, yeah.
Lived
So
with
you
your
were
mum.
18, I was 17 still.
Yeah, I just turned 18. You were 7 because Mum wouldn't let me move out before I turned 18.
Yeah, that's
so
right,
pretty much
yeah.
the day after I turned 18, I was out of there. So yeah, we lived with your mum for a while, and I'll never forget one of the first times in those first couple of weeks when we lived together. We came home one day, and your mum called you aside and said she wanted to speak to you about something, and I was totally freaking out. I didn't know what it was about, and you came back in the room, and I asked you what your mum wanted to talk to you about, and what did you say?
I can't remember.
You can't
should've-
remember?
You should have prepped me on this story. What story?
You told me that your mum said to you that she can hear us having sex.
I don't remember that.
Yes, you did. It's because you made it up. I found out years later that she didn't say that to you at all.
Oh, well, that makes sense then.
That's what you told me at the time. So all these years, every time I look at your mum, I picture that conversation that she had with you.
That rings a bell, but I can't even remember that. It's probably because I just probably just was said it in passing. And
You
you've
did.
held on to that for
I held
how
on to
long?
it for so long.
That's pretty funny.
Well, I couldn't look her in the eye ever again after that.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh my
I
gosh.
probably should have said just jokes. Sorry about that.
Anyway, so we lived with your mum, and then of course I got really uncomfortable thinking that she'd been hearing us having sex. So then your dad's house was empty because he was working on Christmas Island at the time.
Yep.
So we moved into your dad's house, and that was our very first time of basically living alone together as a couple, which was really cool. So we lived there for a little bit, and while we were living between these houses, we were pretty much you were saving up for a deposit for a house, because that was always a big thing for you. You always wanted to buy a house as soon as you could.
Yeah, so I'd always saved like all the money I could try and save. Even I started working, I was like 12 or 13 at Western Bird World,
Yeah.
bag and seed. And yeah, just tried to save money through there. And then once I was working at Eagle Boys Pizza for
Yeah, I
a
remember
while.
that.
And I got my apprenticeship at 16, and luckily still
I
living
remember
at
in
home.
your apprenticeship you were earning like $6 something an hour.
I think it's like $6.75 it started out.
Yeah.
And then it went to $7.15 or something. I was like, yeah, big pay rise. But I would save half of that money and bank it every week.
Pretty much, you'd save nearly more than half, I reckon, because you'd
At
buy
least.
a carton of beer and
Yeah.
then you would just save the rest.
Not until I was 18.
I remember
course.
even when we'd go to McDonald's, I would eat Macca's and you would...
I would just get a cup of ice water, yeah.
and I was like, these guys were weirdo.
Yeah. I was very committed to buying a house.
You were, which was amazing for a guy.
I just wouldn't spend any money.
It is amazing for a guy that, you know, at such a young age was thinking about that. So anyway, growing up, I never ever thought having my own house would even be an option. My whole family comes from housing commission. My mum and dad still don't have their own house either. So I just thought, you know, I'd follow the trend and just go on to rent. Never really ever thought I'd ever have my own house. So it wasn't until I got with you and you put that planted that seed in my head, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe this is achievable. So, yeah, we started saving together and working hard. I was doing gigs every
Kirsty's
single
been
weekend.
doing gigs since she was like 14, band gigs. So we started pooling our money.
Yeah, we started pulling our money together, and then we had to wait for you to turn 18 because we literally couldn't buy a house by law until you were 18, I remember at the time. And we had the first home buyers grant, which really helped. And we looked for houses for ages and we just couldn't find anything that we could afford because the bank, I think, would only lend us like $150,000 at the time. So we ended up finding a house through a friend of a friend, and it was a private sale. And yeah, our first house was $165,000. So that seemed like a lot of money to us at the time.
Yeah, at that price nowadays.
It's
So
crazy. So we're very lucky that we did get that very first house because that set us up for our love of property. And we did a few renos to that house, not many. You know, we didn't do anything.
We didn't know how to renovate.
Yeah, we didn't do anything to the kitchen or bathroom, anything like that.
I think we knocked a wall out and took the fireplace out. We painted and did
we put
the
in some
gardens.
gardens, and that was it. I think we put new carpet in because the carpet was gross. But that's it. We didn't do anything else. And we ended up selling that house, I think, about 3 years later, and we made about $60,000 on that. So at the time when we were quite young, that was a lot of money for us, and we thought, wow, maybe we can make a living out of doing this. So then we bought another house, and that house we only made about $20,000 on, I remember at the time, just because, you know, we'd bought a house that was a lot more expensive, and at the time the property market had sort of dropped a bit,
Yeah,
so we didn't
nothing was
make
really
a whole lot of
happening.
money on that one.
But you use them as lessons, and then you just
Yeah.
try and just put that into the next one. So
Yeah.
it just took us a while to learn how the renovation game worked, because I didn't know how to even use a lot of these tools I was buying and stuff like that. So I just had to make it up as we went. So
And you'd get on
they're just
YouTube.
learning curves and.
Yeah, so anyway, we did a couple more houses and we didn't actually make money on them at all. Some of them we actually lost money on. But as we say, it's learning curve. But what we did from there as well is I was wanting to be over in Nashville more and more for my music career. I was going over and spending months at a time over there and coming back to Australia. I didn't have a visa at the time, so I could only stay for 90 days at a time. And so we got to thinking, we're like, how can we create a business that is going to financially support us so that we can travel over to Nashville and be over there for my music career? And so we had a look around our hometown, and the only thing it didn't have was a cafe at the time. So we thought, well,
we looked into heaps of stuff, because we were in a wedding sort of area with the vineyards at Cessnock. We were looking at, I don't know, wedding shops and things like that. But
yeah, so we thought, well, let's start a cafe. And neither of us had ever worked in a cafe. I'd never even drank coffee before.
You still don't, to be fair.
I still don't drink coffee. I'm a tea drinker.
Yeah.
We'd never made coffee before, anything like that. So
bacon eggs on a Saturday is about the most cooking we've done.
Yeah, so we just got on YouTube and read books and, literally typed into Google how to open a cafe, how to run a cafe. And yeah, we just jumped in, and just did it. And it was actually really successful, our little cafe. We actually called it Millie's. We named it after our dog, Millie, who we actually lost Millie a couple of years ago, but Millie was like our child. So we named it Millie's, and it was very popular and
super popular.
I think we had like 6 full-time staff at the time. But then, so I was traveling back and forth to Nashville. It was becoming really, we both were traveling back and forth to Nashville. It was becoming really hard to try and run this business. We were a bit naive. We thought, we'll set up this business. We'll run it for the first 12 months, which we did. We didn't have a single day off in that first 12 months. And then we'll move to Nashville and, we can have someone else run it. But no one runs your business the way you do. And it ended up being so much more stressful than what we ever thought it would. And
definitely
at the time,
was a 7-day-a-week cafe too.
Yeah, it was 7-day a week. And at the time, even though it was so successful, our staff were earning more money than what we were. We sold up the last house that we had and used that money to create the cafe, and we were living in your mum's shed. So we lived in your mum's shed for 3 years. We didn't have any running water, didn't have aircon, nothing like that. If we wanted to go to the bathroom, we'd have to walk through the backyard into your mum's house to go to the bathroom.
And we were just super cheap too. I think we just had no idea about cafes and things. So if we had have just doubled our prices up front,
and
we would add half the staff.
Yeah.
Then
half the customers that made the same amount of money.
Yeah, and even half the customers made the same amount of money,
But,
so it's a lot of $4 coffees to make. Yeah, our rent was quite high as well. So we just didn't know.
But
so
anyway,
just take these lessons.
Even though it was successful, we weren't earning hardly any money from it, unfortunately. And I remember it got to the end of our 3-year lease and the landlords put our rent up by like $10,000 and we said, no, this is a sign we're going to get out. So we sold up the cafe.
When we say successful, it was successful where it gave a lot of people employment and
it was packed every day. Every day it was packed.
It was like 60-seater and it had, probably 3 days a week we'd have to turn people away. So it was cranking. It was just...
but there's just so many overheads.
I didn't even know what an overhead was.
Yeah. So, we decided to sell up that, which, I think everything happens for a reason and it brings us to where we're meant to be. And we used that money that we got from, selling up all the equipment and all that kind of stuff for a deposit for the house that we're in now. So we've been in this house now for about almost 7 years. And we're about to take on a huge reno with this house, which we're really excited about and can't wait. So, that's sort of our story from the beginning to where we are now. And obviously there's been a lot that's happened along the way as well. I'm just going to check this is still recording. Stop breathing like that. What is wrong with you? Oh my God.
I don't know what it is. I can't get a breath.
You're nervous about being in front of a hot chick.
Hot chick. I'm sweaty. It's hot in here.
Okay, so that's us in a nutshell. Let's get to where most people know us from, the block.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been wanting to get on the block for a few years now. We first applied back in 2012, didn't get on, and then we finally made the shortlist, I think it was last year. Didn't make it to the end, unfortunately, but then we finally made it on. Well, I say last. Okay, let's cut that shit out. That's fucking boring.
I was phased out. What were you talking about then? What did you say?
That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. We've got to try and keep people's attention here.
Fucking hell. Okay, so we wanted to be on the block for quite a while now. We applied a few times over the years. I think 4th time lucky we finally got on the block. So, it was the hardest thing we've ever done.
Easy. It just doesn't do it justice on the TV.
It doesn't do it justice.
It's just really hard.
It is. People ask us.
Doesn't function without sleep.
What was your favourite week on the block? And our answer is...
Like the last week when I got to go home.
The day we went home was our favourite day.
Yeah. Like I didn't have... Yeah, to be honest, I didn't have one single bit of fun on that show.
You didn't?
No.
I think there were times I had fun, but it was the kind of fun you have when you're in a...
I would have heaps of fun, but I just couldn't function. I was just so brain dead. I just wanted to cry every day.
Yeah.
I did.
It was. I think we just took on such a hard
It's just the
house.
house was too big. Yeah, way too big.
And if we were to do it again, we'd probably try and pick the easiest house and just have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening that doesn't know what The Block is or is listening overseas, The Block is a big reality TV show in Australia. I think it had the highest ratings for the finale of anything in the year.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big show, and we got lucky enough to get on. So it's a super massive privilege to get on. Don't get me wrong.
It was the most amazing experience we've ever had in our life, as hard as it was.
Hindsight, we just picked the biggest house, and it was just way too hard, and it was
But
hell.
in saying that, I don't think we would choose a easier house because that's just not us. You know what I mean?
Well, if I know now,
but you wouldn't know what you know now. So
yeah, I know. I just would have picked one with a slab and then smashed it.
Anyway, so our block journey has brought us to where we are today, and we're really appreciative of that journey because, it's brought us.
It's life changing.
It is life changing. It's amazing. So, I something I want to talk about, and I'm going to get my phone up for this because it's an article I was reading the other day about the Pope, my old mate, the Pope. Does he have a name, the Pope? What's his name?
Pope Francis, I think.
Is that his name? I wasn't sure if there was a new Pope. Yes, Pope Francis. He's 85 years old. So there's an article the other day, and the reason I bring this up is because one of the main things we get asked now, especially from people that watch us on the blog, is they know that, I'm nearly 34, you're 33, we don't have children. It's
pretty much the same.
So,
like, he's
so
old.
taboo.
He's old.
Yes. The constant question we get is, when are you having kids?
When are you having kids?
We've had this question. We've been together nearly 17 years now.
And we've got that question for 17 years.
That question, yes, for 17 years. When are you having kids? And there was an article from Pope Francis the other day that slammed selfish couples who have pets instead of kids. And we're one of those people.
Well, we were one of, so we probably prefer pets.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
100% prefer pets.
Yeah.
So the Pope has blasted couples who have pets instead of children, calling not wanting to have a child a form of selfishness, which I would agree with. The reason that we don't have children is because we are selfish.
We're selfish trying to make a better life for ourselves. I think if they had to come earlier and we were content, then it might be an option.
I don't know. So
I wouldn't have ruled it out.
Okay, the question is, are we going to have kids?
Probably not.
It's not probably not. I'm pretty sure it's...
I'd like to say never. Like, I don't like to say never.
I know.
It cements something.
It's pretty much never in my eyes. And I think we're very lucky that we're a couple that feel the same way. I think it would be terrible if
definitely, me not saying I don't want to stamp it out doesn't mean I want to have kids. I don't want to have kids.
You don't want to have kids more than I don't want to have kids.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think it is true.
But
don't try and be the nice guy now, mate.
Yeah, but I don't like just cement.
I know, because, there could be a slip up. You could accidentally...
A slip up?
Yeah. Well, there was that one time. We had to go to the chemist and get the morning after pill as a married couple.
You idiot. I'll cut this out.
That was embarrassing. You're not cutting it out? Why would you cut? It's a normal thing. I'm sure there's heaps of people out there who had to take the morning after pill. It was like I took it with a random. We both went in there as husband and wife.
Yeah, Kirsty made me go in there. So
I was like, mate, I'm not going in here by myself. You did this to me. What about the lady dragged us into the room into the chemist?
Oh, that's right. They had to ask us some questions.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that was before the block days. How embarrassing would that be now? Because everywhere we go now, we get spotted. Imagine rocking up to the chemist now and saying...
I wouldn't have went in. You would have had done that by yourself.
No, mate. You'd be going in there.
Nah, no way. I would have had a kid over that. No way.
Oh my God. Imagine that. Just too embarrassed, so you just go through with the pregnancy.
I probably would have.
Okay, so the answer to most people's questions is, do we want kids? No, we don't want kids. And I know we say, oh yeah, but never say never. But I think realistically, no, we won't have kids. My parents were very young when they had me. My mum was 16 when she fell pregnant, and your parents were the opposite. They were older. Your mum, I think, was 38, 39 when she had you.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me personally, if we were going to have children, I'd want to be a younger parent because I see that having younger parents I'm able to have them longer in my life than what you are, unfortunately. And I would want that if I had a child. So just for me personally, I know that being nearly 34 years old.
People having them up to like, I don't know, 50.
I know, which is fine for them.
Because people live longer.
They can make that choice.
Yeah, of course.
Me personally,
so there's nothing wrong with having them later.
I don't want 100% not. Me personally, right now, I don't want to be in that older category. So yes, the answer is no. But in saying that, we've always talked about fostering. I feel like we will get to a position financially where we will have a lot to offer a child, not just financially, but
I think we've got a lot to offer as parents.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good values and I don't know, people say that we're
good people.
I'm not really good at like talking myself up, but I think we would both have 100%. A lot to offer.
We do, and I mean we have a lot of nieces and nephews that we love dearly, and we love spending time with them.
A lot of our friends have kids now, so we're surrounded by kids all the time. So.
We just don't have that maternal thing in us that makes us want to have a child of our own. But I feel like, down the track, maybe when we are 40 years old, that we could foster a child. That's always been something we've talked about. So in the future, yes, we probably will look at fostering. But no,
we turn that 300,000 we won on the block into a couple of million, yes.
But yeah, we've always said our whole relationship, the whole 17 years, that we don't want children of our own. I've said it since I was a kid, and I think that comes from me being the oldest of 4 children. I come from a really big family. My mum's one of 7, my dad's one of 8, my nan and papa one of 12 and 13. I was always surrounded by children and always surrounded by younger children. There's 12 years between me and my youngest sister, and I feel like I did help raise them, and I did get to experience that side of life, I guess.
You've pretty much already raised 3 kids. Well, your brother's only 15 months apart, but to be fair, and he could probably agree to some extent that you probably had a lot to do with raising him as well.
My brothers and sister, they still come to me for advice all the time. And even when we first moved out of home, like my brothers and sister would always be at our house. We'd always have them. They'd always be sleeping over. And I just never wanted children. And I'm just so lucky that you felt the same way, because as I said before, that would be heartbreaking to be with someone and one person want one thing and the other person want another.
So
so I'm lucky we're on that same wavelength. And I remember in the very first stages when I wouldn't say anything in the beginning, but when people would ask us, but now I just say no, we don't want kids. People always automatically just think it's me. And they say things like, oh, but Jesse would be a lovely father. Why would you deny him of children? I'm like, hello.
When people say that to you?
Heaps of people have said that to me.
Yeah, right.
All my aunties say that to me.
Oh,
all
the
time.
aunties especially. The aunties, yeah.
Yeah. But it's if not the same, more probably inclined to not want children.
Especially when I've been around them a lot. I'm like, nah, no way. Too hard, too messy, too sticky, too loud.
And I think for me too, I've always been so career orientated, and I feel like this is just me being 100% honest. And I know a lot of people won't agree with it, because there are plenty of working women out there that can do both. I don't feel like I could. I feel like if I had a child, I would choose, being a stay-at-home mum, and I would probably give up my career, because all my focus would be on that.
Which is really hard, because a lot of people can't do that financially. So.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Financially,
that means I would have to go get a steady job. We can't do that.
Actually, so this means you would have to be the stay-at-home dad, because I could not handle not working. You know what I'm like, just with lockdowns.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I could not handle that.
We both work in the music industry, so when I say steady job, it's just whenever it comes in, we take it.
Yeah.
And it could be dry spells. That's what I mean by steady job.
Yeah. So anyway, long way of answering the question, are we having kids of our own? The answer is no. So, and that was just brought up from me reading that article about me old mate Pope. Francis.
Well, yeah, that'd be Frank.
Does he even have kids himself?
I got no idea.
Are you allowed to? When you're the Pope?
I got no idea.
I got no idea.
I knew his name, but I don't know anything about him. I'm sure he's got heaps. Catholic. No idea. Okay.
I think you should take another big breath.
Another big breath?
I don't think you got nothing.
Get one in. I should be right now for a bit. At least like 5 minutes or something.
So I think we've talked enough shit for now.
We have probably talked enough rubbish for now. But that was probably just to let people know who we are that don't know us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're Kirsty and Jesse. This is a podcast that we're doing. Crazy. I never thought I'd ever do a podcast, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, here we are doing it. Let's hear from a dad joke of the week, Uncle Bill.
Recently, my doctor told me I'm going deaf. That was hard for me to hear.
Yeah, that's thanks, Uncle Bill. That was good.
Pretty sad.
Well, maybe we'll get you back next week. We're not sure.
Maybe not.
We might have to screen the jokes.
Yeah.
That's probably one of his better ones. To be fair, that's probably one of his better ones. Thanks, Uncle Bill.
By the way, Uncle Bill is just our mate Matt.
Yeah, so we actually won money on the block, but we haven't got any money yet. So it doesn't come until settlement.
So we don't have any cool segments.
So we don't have any money.
We haven't got any money.
We haven't got any money to do anything real fancy or flash.
Even if we did, we wouldn't.
I'd probably...
Our wedding was $5,000, mate. Our wedding all up was $5,000.
Yeah, that was everything. Tucker and
but that sucked.
Decorations.
I hated our wedding. It was
terrible. We had to just set it up and do it all ourselves.
It was the worst.
And pack it down.
And then remember, we came home from our wedding.
We're living in the shed.
It'd been pouring down raining. We were living in your mum's shed and we came home. We got married on a Friday so that we would have an extra day off because we could only have the weekend off because we were working in our cafe. So our wedding was the 4th of the 4th, 2014 because my favourite number's 4. We got married at 4 p.m. Didn't rain all day. Of course, as soon as I walked down the aisle, it started pouring down raining. Yes, but they say that's luck. But anyway.
Well, it must be, we're still together.
Anyway, yes. We came home from our wedding the next day. We'd packed up, spent all day packing up the hall, came home to find our bed in our shed that we were living in was flooded. The roof had been leaking overnight.
Yeah, something had happened to the roof and it just had this pooling point where the
right
water
on our bed.
Right over the bed. So we got home from our wedding that we had to set up, pack down ourselves. It was just, everyone else at our wedding had fun except for us because we had to do everything.
You had a lot of fun at our wedding.
I had more fun than Kirsty, to be fair.
We made a pact that we weren't going to get drunk at our wedding.
I haven't heard this pact. She always says, we made this pact. You tell everyone we made this pact. We never made that pact.
We did. We said we'll have a couple of drinks, but we won't get drunk because we want to be able to remember our wedding.
It doesn't make sense. Why would I agree to that to start with?
I don't know. You were probably drunk when you agreed to it. But anyway.
See?
We said we weren't going to get drunk at our wedding. And what happened? So I didn't drink at all because I was like, well, there's no point just having a couple of drinks. I just won't worry about drinking. But good old Jesse over here got absolutely blind.
Did not.
You did get blind. So anyway, come 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm wanting to go back to our accommodation, our nice accommodation, enjoy our first night as a married couple.
You had to drive there.
I had to cart all the presents to the car by myself. Then I had to try and get you in the car, get you away from all the other drunks in the hall at the wedding. We get back to the accommodation and I said, mate, we're not having sex on our wedding night, so you need to get to it.
I remember it was the greatest night of my life. Even when we got back to the accom.
I can guarantee you it wasn't.
Well, I had a great time. Sorry if you didn't.
That's all that matters.
That's the way it goes usually anyway, isn't it?
So anyway, we didn't have the greatest wedding. So hopefully one day, maybe for our 10th year anniversary, we'll renew the vows. We should just go to Vegas and get Elvis to remarry us. And then we can just have a good night out, go to the buffet.
Go to the buffet. That's Kirsty's idea of a good night out. Go to the buffet. That would be too. Kirsty doesn't drink much. I drink in moderation, but I enjoy a beverage pretty much every day.
Yes.
I haven't been actually lately.
You haven't been lately.
I'm trying to be good.
Trying to cut some weight.
Yes, the Christmas weight, as everyone out there probably is doing the same as well. But I do enjoy a beverage. Kirsty doesn't drink too much. 3 or 4 times a year max?
No, maybe 2 times a year, like New Year's, maybe my birthday.
Yeah.
But when I do, I go to town.
She turns it on. She's a cracker. She is actually really funny. I'll give you that.
Yeah, so I turn it on so much, I need to recharge the rest of the year to be able to do it.
Because she just laughs uncontrollably pretty much the whole time after 3 or 4 cruises.
Yes. Yeah. 3 or 4 cruises. It's more like 6 or 8. Thank you very much. But anyway, sugar-free cruises too.
Right.
Radio, put your headphones. Oh, you don't want headphones on?
Well, no, I'll try them again. I just don't know. This feels weird. Talk?
Hello.
I don't know. And I can hear myself too loudly. I think that's what it is. I don't know.
Turn your headphones down, you weirdo.
But then it turns you down and I can't hear anything. I just got to...
Okay, anyway.
Right.
Are you keeping them on or off?
I'll try and keep them back on.
Okay.
I'll try.
Stop moving on that
It's
chair,
loud.
rat. Stop moving.
Has that been doing that the whole time?
Yes, you're constantly moving and taking big breaths.
I can't hear myself breathe. But that's going to be annoying if you can hear the chair and that.
Yeah, mate. This is what I've got to live with.
Is what it is. Sorry,
Anyway,
guys.
so what's next for Kirsty and Jesse?
Next year? This year.
This year.
Yeah, there's a bit on actually. So we've got a massive reno happening in our house. So it's like extensions, potentially.
And we're going to be
pool.
documenting it all. So we're filming it all, going to make it into a series. We're going to be working with a lot of the show sponsors from the block, which is really exciting. So it's going to be extension. It's going to be fully gutting the inside of the house. Hopefully put a pool in, but we've got a really steep block. So we've got to...
And we've got to
work with
the budget too.
And we've got to work with the budget too.
I thought we were going to walk away with like
$1 million.
$1 million. But you can't sneeze at $300,000.
No.
Crazy. That's amazing, life-changing money.
Yeah, so now we've had to strip back the plans a little bit, and we're just going to see what we can achieve, what we can and can't do. Yeah, so next year is the big reno. I've got a new album coming out, which we're really excited about. We're actually in the middle of recording the album when we found out we're on the block at the start of last year. So it's exciting to finally get it out there this year. Going to be on tour as long as COVID pisses off. And
I think like this whole COVID thing's up in the air again, but like it was meant to be 63 dates Kirsty was going to have this year. So we're just like, it was going to be a massive year for gigs. We're hoping like there's still going to be a
big tour. Hopefully it's just
tour.
going to have to be later on in the year. So we're hopeful for that. So we're in the middle of rescheduling tour dates at the moment. So that's going to be happening. Of course, we've got this new podcast, which we're really excited about. We're hoping we can get back over to Nashville. We'll just have to see what happens with the big C, what's going to happen with COVID.
The big C.
Yeah.
Oh, God, sick of talking about it, eh?
So am I. I'm so over it.
Edit that bit out as well.
So, that's what's next for us.
Kids?
Oh, definitely no kids.
No kids. What can we say to keep people to tune in next year, like week?
Okay.
It could just was like, I think we'll find something interesting, hopefully, to talk about next week. So tune in.
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully between now and the next podcast, we find something interesting to talk about.
I think this one was just to set up who we are,
it is.
and I'm not just that boring sob on the lounge doing these ones on the block. I'm getting better, I think.
No, you're not boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this episode was just to set up who we are as people, I guess, because I think on the show it didn't really showcase us.
And to answer a few questions that people have as well.
We get like tons of like questions about the block and stuff like that. So like this is what we'll dive into in future episodes.
Yeah.
Oi, do we have a name for this podcast?
Oh shit, no. What's it going to be called? Kirsty and Jesse Uncensored. Stop moving on that fucking chair.
It's an old chair. I don't have a fancy chair.
I'm sitting on the same chair, mate.
You're not as heavy as me. It's like a little...
I'm not as ADHD as you. We'll talk about that next podcast, actually.
Well, I don't know.
We're in the middle of getting diagnosed. We'll talk about it next week.
Well, you have
so
to...
people can understand you a bit more.
Well, I don't know. I've got no diagnosis. I'm just going to see someone.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So we'll talk about that next week.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, tune in next week to find out what's wrong with Jesse.
Yeah, we're trying to find it out. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing. Maybe I just ate too many
it's part of your
bugs
charm.
when I was growing up.
It's part of your charm. That's why we love you.
I think if you eat snails, it can do some brain damage. And I was outside a lot as a kid. Maybe that's all it is.
You ate a lot of snails?
Well, I might have.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for listening to our very first podcast, and make sure you tune in next week.
Hooray.
Hooray.
It's not hooray. It sounded like you were about to say hooray.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Hooray.
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 Hooray. See you, mate.
See you, mate.